Right, it is the next video. So, I'm going to show you guys, maybe I shouldn't have deleted that, how to make this a random guess so that we don't know what it's going to be. Even the programmer isn't going to know. So, there's a whole library which is basically just a set of functions that someone else created for us to make our lives a lot easier. A whole library called random. So you have to import this library before you can use it. So we're importing random right here. So now that we have random, we can create a list of choices for our computer to pick. So we can say list for now. We'll just say list. List equals, and we have to use square brackets to create a list. We can say list equals rock, put a comma outside of the quotes to separate the items. So this is item number 1, or the computer is going to think of it as item number 0, but I'll get to that later. So that's the first item, rock. Then paper is our second item. Scissors is our third item. Remember to use these commas to separate the items. You don't need the space. The space is just for aesthetics. You need the comma. So make sure to have that. So the list is rock, paper, and scissors. That's what we have right now. So, computer guess, instead of just having it to be scissors all the time, we can say random dot choice, which is basically going to pick a random option from our list. So what this means is it's going to pick a random option from whatever we put in here. We could have put rock, paper, and scissors in here directly without having to create this whole list, but I just like the way this looks a lot better. So now we need to edit this a little bit. If user guessed rock, but the computer guessed paper, then the computer wins, right? So we need to change that. So let's say if user guess equals rock, and in these if statements we can put and or. So let's say user guess equals rock and computer guess equals scissors. But we don't want to say scissors. We want to pick something out of this list. So the way you do that is by using indexes. Each of these list numbers has a separate sort of number attached to it. So this, it doesn't start by counting 1, 2, 3, 4 like people do. This isn't 1, and this isn't 2, and this isn't 3. It starts with 0. So the first item, or rock, is going to be 0. It's 0, and then it counts linearly. So 0, 1, 2. So for the user to win, they would have had to guess rock, and the computer would have had to get scissors. So let's say computer guess equals list dot 2. Or no, it should be list 2, because we know that this is number 2 according to the list. So list square brackets 2. And if the user guesses paper and the computer guesses list 2, then person loses. If the user guesses paper and the computer guesses list 2, then it's a draw. Now we have to create a bunch more of these functions. We have to create one for each. We pretty much have to create 3 for each thing. So it's not always good to do this, but in this case we're just going to have to copy and paste to make this go by a lot faster. This shouldn't be your standard practice. You shouldn't always be copy and pasting everything, but it's just gonna have to work for now. So let's say these are all the computer guesses rock and or paper. Let's say these are all if the computer guesses paper, and these are all going to be if the computer guesses rock. So now we have to edit these things. So if the user guesses rock and the computer guesses paper, then you lose. And if they both guess paper, it's a draw. And if the person guesses scissors, then you win. So, same thing here. If it's rock and rock, then it's a draw. If it's paper and rock, you win. If it's scissors and rock, you lose. So, let's run this program. Rock, paper, or scissors. I'm gonna guess rock here. Oh, that's a problem. I have to type it in uppercase, so let's say rock. I win, so the computer must have guessed paper, but I don't know that it guessed paper. I have to find some way for the computer to tell me what it guessed. So, there's an easy way to do that. You just print I guessed, and you can actually put multiple things inside of these parentheses, but you have to separate them. Just like we separated the items in the list, you can say I guessed, and then computer guess. And what this is saying is it's going to print the letters I guessed, and then it's going to spit out whatever value it came up with for this random choice. So let's see. Say I pick rock again. I'm a big fan of rock here. It's a draw. I also guessed rock. See? That is printing out what it guessed after this text. So rock, paper, scissors. I'm gonna go away from rock now. I'm gonna pick scissors. You lose. I guess rock. See, I should have stayed with rock. But now I'm getting kind of suspicious. Why does it keep guessing rock? So I'm gonna try this again. Let's see. Rock, paper, or scissors. I'm gonna go with rock again. I learned my lesson last time. You win. I guess scissors. See, I win because the rock is the best option. But we know that it's random. That was just coincidence. But why it said this, I don't know. Let me try this again. Rock. You have to pick between rock, paper, and scissors. Now, it shouldn't say that, right? Because obviously I picked between rock, paper, and scissors. So, this is very odd. To draw, I guess rock. It's very confusing to me. That's very odd. But our code works, so I'll take it as a win. Alright, so today you learned how to use random choices out of a list, and you learned how to print multiple things in here. Most importantly, you learned that rock is always the best choice. You should never pick anything else while you're playing rock, paper, scissors. I will see you guys in the next video tomorrow. Goodbye.